our fair share. I mean,
Okay. I'd like to call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. And our first order of business will be a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meetings. So that motion made by Ben Driscoll, seconded by Supervisor Mayday. Okay, is there any discussion, any corrections that you saw, or are we ready to vote? Good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll open floor up, privilege of the floor, public comment. For anybody who wish to go to the podium and speak. Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to the action item, which is a representative from Studi Adirondack, Anastasia Erst, who'd like to give a presentation.
Thank you and good morning. It's a great privilege to be here with you. So the college is back off and running for the spring. Yes, this is the spring semester, despite the cold. We are abuzz. Everything is going very smoothly. This was our first full week of teaching, and faculty are saying that our scholars are earnestly at work. And that's important because it is, as you all are well aware, a very challenging time to do all of the work we do, whether it's municipal government or college work. So a sense of what's happening on the campus is our enrollment for spring is flat to last spring. So good in the sense that we're maintaining stability, but not so good in terms of revenue and dealing with growing expenses. And I heard some murmurings here before the meeting started that you were wrestling with the same kinds of issues. We're finding that students are increasingly electing part-time study, and probably a sign of the times, right? They're working and going to school part-time rather than going full-time. I'm pleased to report that Warren County residents have increased in number, proportionate within the population, as have Washington County. They're both a growing population for us. And on the downside, though, Saratoga County is sending us fewer students, which then impacts, again, our chargebacks, the dollars that come from the counties that don't sponsor us. But part of that increasing number that we've seen from this county and Washington County, we think from what we can see in the numbers is attributable to the SUNY Reconnect program. So I ask everybody I talk to start to reframe their thinking about who goes to college, because that program is for 25 to 55-year-olds. And this spring, it's approaching 40% of our population are in that age group. So we're thinking of the college serving those 18 and 19-year-olds, and we still have a majority of that age group, but this increasing number, and we think that number that's growing in the population coming from very close in, are those older students. So they are pursuing, in this program I just want to review with you, this is the free tuition and fees that is being supported by the state in the disciplines of computer science, criminal justice, substance abuse services, cybersecurity and networking, engineering science, environmental science, health sciences, mechatronics, nursing, record numbers of nurses in training right now, 205 nurses in progress right now at our college. And new for fall, we're expecting to have approved at least two new education degrees that will be eligible for that support. So I like to call that out. It's a great opportunity for individuals who do not have a first degree and are interested in improving their skills and, the livelihood that comes with earning that type of credential. So good news that we have this support. Less good news is the financial impact that we are facing. And so because flat means a reduction in a world where wages go up and inflation impacts the things we buy, we are working really hard to manage expenses. The budget from the year that ended in 24-25 ended in deficit, a larger deficit than had been anticipated. And that was in significant part due to some unanticipated healthcare expenses, the chargeback revenues, again, increasing bad debt as students are struggling to pay the bills. So all of these things are on our minds as we make plans for how we manage our affairs. So right now, if you're hearing murmurings, yes, we're doing position control kinds of things. Every job that attrits, we're looking to see, do we need it? Do we need it in that format? We are reworking through a variety of operational efficiencies, looking at a number of different collaborations that we can take up. and trying to take full advantage of some of these programs that are available to help students support their education. We also are working hard to utilize our spaces as optimally as possible. So we're working with the Lake George Chamber and Convention and Visitors Bureau to use a portion of our residence hall that is not occupied for some J1 workforce housing, which we've had many requests, and so we've figured out a model where that can work for us. We are looking to deepen that collaboration and really work with them around other ways the college property can support conferences and other kinds of, travel activities and things. We think that is directly aligned with our mission and something that we've been working hard over time to build as a part of our practice is bringing the public to our campus. And so you'll probably see more of that because it's something that is really an opportunity for us. Right now, we are projecting a balanced budget in this year. So I said we ended last year in deficit. We will not do that twice. I have a pretty conservative view of finances. And so we are making the changes that are needed so that we will land the plane as it needs to be. And we are working hard right now, planning the budget that we'll talk with you about over the summer, that so that we can incorporate our contractual wage increases and all of those things. Means that we're making hard choices, just like you make hard choices in your practice. But that's how I think we have to be in these times where we can't predict really kind of what's happening, especially in the public policy space where a lot of things are shifting. So right now, I know that we're all in the state budget process right now. There is Community College Advocacy Day next week that we'll be participating in Albany and talking with them about the budget to come. All of our early information is to expect it to be very flat again, which is certainly appreciated that there is a maintenance of effort from the state. But we will continue to advocate that maybe they could do a little bit more to help us out, especially because we feel that the work we're doing is so fundamental to the well-being of the community. Nurses, working with adults to get a better job. I think that really sits at the core of things that add a lot of value within communities. Other things going on for us right now, we're deep in strategic planning. It's my first year. I've made it halfway, right? So we're deep in the process of figuring out what are the next steps that make sense for this institution, what are the needs, lining all those up. Really looking at our facilities. We have some very beautiful facilities on our campus, and we have some that are in need of attention. And so trying to get that all in balance and make sure we're optimizing our use of all of what we have available to us. Mentioned the residence hall, it's underfilled, trying to use it in a way that is beneficial to the community. I really appreciate the collaboration with Warren County's career service that is going to be starting to do some career services work on our campus, working with students on resumes and, skills at interviewing and these kinds of things that people need as they get ready to graduate and go out into the workforce. That's helped us out because our career services advisor was on a grant and the grant went away and the person went away. So this allows us to provide the services that are needed without having to incur the additional expense. And so that collaboration is most appreciated. The other thing I'll alert you to is I believe the last time I was here, I shared that we had lost an Upward Bound grant that serves youngsters in especially the very local high schools. This is one of these topics that you hear about on the news. There is litigation associated with this, and the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia has actually put in a preliminary order to the U.S. Department of Education, essentially to revisit all of these. So stay tuned. We remain hopeful that maybe, just maybe, we will get those dollars restored. There was nothing we did wrong. We think maybe AI looked at our documents in some funny way. So we're really hoping we can get some reconsideration of that so we can get our personnel back into the high schools where they have long been and done a lot of good work with our youngsters. We are also very busy looking across the community colleges and the state as a whole to figure out where can we collaborate in ways that will help everybody in these difficult fiscal times. So there's a lot of good conversation going on in the Capital District about among both the public and the private colleges. What are the things we can do together to help everybody be as successful as possible? We're all very excited about the Regeneron project in Saratoga and interested to determine how we can connect our local folks to those opportunities if those are of interest. And so we have faculty actively working on some new degree development that will be appropriate to that, that opportunity. Fundraising is a big opportunity for us as well. I have a new team in our foundation that is getting their wheels under them. And so you'll expect to see more from us as it relates to working philanthropically as well as seeking out grant funding. We're carefully monitoring what's happening in Washington right now. It does appear that there'll be some federal grant making opportunities for us with the way it looks like, at least as of last night, the funding was going for the government for the remainder of this fiscal year. So you can assume we'll be on top of that. And so that was a whirlwind tour of all the topics and all the things that go in, but I would be remiss if I left you today and did not mention that the Timberwolves men's basketball team is cleaning up the place. They beat Onondaga, which is where I came from. They beat Jefferson. This is all in the last month. They beat Herkimer, which is nationally ranked. And they just beat Hudson Valley. They're away this weekend at Corning, but next week, next Saturday at 1 p.m., they're going to take on Clinton. And it's going to be a wild time because people are super excited about how well they're doing. So I mentioned that to you because in all this cold where we want to go hide, the gym is mighty warm. And so you are most welcome to join us. We will all be having a grand time. And so with that, I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the good information about Warren and Washington counties. I'm just curious about your conversations with our colleagues in Saratoga County. I had the pleasure of being on a Zoom meeting with one of the new supervisors in Saratoga County. And for your information, Saratoga County is the most geographically diverse county in New York State. It's bordered by 8 different counties. So, you know, there's a number of choices that they can make depending on where they live to maybe go to community college or a private college. Have they given you any feedback on what they're seeing? Is it a different kind of economy or reason why more students aren't being full-time or even part-time students?
So I haven't heard anything specifically from the folks in Saratoga County. I know that there's a new supervisor in the Wilton location where our branch is particularly depleted. It's very, very challenging right now. In part, I've been attributing it to your exact point about not only how many contiguous counties there are, but just how many colleges there are. There's fierce competition out there, and everyone's sort of seeking that same student as the number of high school graduates diminishes. So that opportunity we have is to re-engage those adults in the community college space. The privates don't have access to that. The universities don't have access to that funding. So we're putting a lot of energy in trying to connect. And so I'm going to challenge all of you, if you know somebody out there who didn't quite finish, would like to try to, do something new. We really do have a nice program for them, and who knows how long these things last. So I keep saying, come now, don't put it off.
Right.
But yeah, we will explore more what, if we can learn more from the Saratoga leadership about what they think is happening. But the impression we have is it's just intense competition.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Is there any other questions?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just wanted to say also that last Thursday, SUNY Adirondack hosted our inter-county meeting when everyone came to Warren County, and it was a fabulous event. Dr. Erd spoke, and all the participants got a chance to tour the nursing program, and it's a fabulous program. You all know we have a shortage of nurses statewide. It goes all the way across the country, but particularly in the state, and they're doing a phenomenal job. So we might look at having supervisors take a tour of that nursing program. It's really first class. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our second item is Jackie Figueroa review of report on tracking the vacancies filled. I don't see them here. She said
It's just here's an FYI. And there's questions.
okay, yep, we all have a list in our packet for your review.
It's a short list, right?
Can we We'll move on to item 3, which is referrals from the Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee. All 3, A, B, and C, are to create new positions. They are all funded in the budget. Is there anyone here who would not like to see them combined into one vote? Right, we can do
I'll
that.
move that we combine them
Okay,
and we'll
Moved by
bring it to the floor.
second by Supervisor E2. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Okay,
Gentlemen, I just wanted to mention that 5 of us, 5 supervisors had the opportunity to tour the jail yesterday. And the staff were very knowledgeable, accommodating, answered all our questions, and it was a real comprehensive look at what goes on there on a daily basis. And so I thank Amanda for arranging that, and for the sheriff and all the staff who we met yesterday for a real informative opportunity.
3 of us attended. It was very informative and very well done. So these 3 are.
Yeah, I would just like to speak to those if I can. Thank you. So A and B, I want to reiterate, these are not creating new positions in the sheriff's office. A and B are 2 positions. The sheriff's going to fill 1 vacancy using these 2 position descriptions to determine which is the best fit for the person they select for the position. On item C, this is, we have security guards. The current job description requires that security guards be retired law enforcement officers. And that's created now some challenges in attracting enough people to fill the security guard position. So this removes that requirement to give them a little bit of flexibility in hiring when the vacancy occurs. So no new positions, just a new way of doing some of these. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on these 3 items? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We vote twice. We voted twice on it. It's just good.
One on the motion to combine them and one on the motion to approve them, right? Okay. The 4th item is a referral from Sports Services Committee. It's a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create the new position of principal account clerk and delete the position of accounting technician. So we'll bring that to the floor. Supervisor Mayday and seconded by Supervisor E2. Is there any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Carries. And second one is, the 5th one is a referral from the Risk and Safety Committee, a request to approve the updated computer usage policy as recommended by the Warren County Risk and Safety Committee to address best practices in the industry and to adopt policy provisions recommended by the county's insurance broker and insurance carrier.
Madam Chair?
It's here.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Marilyn Rivers is here, Mike Colvin are here. If you guys don't mind coming up to the table, just in case there's some questions. I'm the legal advisor for the Risk and Safety Committee, and I want to thank every member of that committee for the extra hours and time that they put in working through policies and procedures and really taking a view from across all of our core departments and adding their expertise into our policies to make sure that everybody's in agreement as we're moving forward and the committee's making recommendations. The computer use policy changes and modifications started probably like October, November of 2025. There was a need to really move it forward for purposes of our insurance program so that we could, I don't want to say market, but really highlight to some of our carriers the policies and procedures that Warren County has and that they are meeting on paper best practices. That work didn't really come to a conclusion in December, which gave the committee a very clear focus moving into the new year of the need to focus with laser attention on this policy moving it forward. And they've done that over the first few weeks of January, and I'm great, again, I'm grateful to them for this. It's so different than the prior policy that you do not have a red line version. And in reviewing it, really, it's best to look at it as it's provided to you. The executive summary and big picture are, the definitions have been expanded and clarified to make sure the policy is clear, understandable, and enforceable. The section on governance, which is Exhibit A, which is Exhibit B in your packet. It starts on page 5. That's a reworking of what was in the original county policy. It covers computer use management and administration, accessing the county's computer network data, and laying out clear lines of reporting for any cyber liability issues that arise, as well as employee discipline for violations of the policy. The next section that you'll see, the cyber liability industry standards.
Exhibit C.
Let me get you through that. That is Exhibit C. This is mostly all new. And what our risk manager did is she worked with our insurance carriers, Tokyo Marine and Travelers, and obtained from them copies of what they considered best practices are in the area of cyber activities and coverage. And that was done really for the entire policy. And just so I say it, so I don't forget, the draft of this policy was also submitted to and reviewed by our insurance broker, as well as our insurance carriers for their input. So that cyber industry general standards, that Exhibit C, really lays out a comprehensive approach to all of the potential issues that could arise through our network and our computer network. What is specifically new is the biometrics policy portion. You'll see on page 11, as the county has used and is continuing to use biometric data. We have not had a policy to directly address that in the past. Social media on page 13. Been touched on in some places previously, but it's consolidated here under the computer use policy for set standards that will apply across the county. And on page 15, what is a new section is also phishing prevention and reporting, which again was prepared, reviewed, and approved by Risk and Safety Committee as a best practice, which the county had not clearly fully described previously. Also attached to the policy, you'll see at the very end what's referred to as the Exhibit F That has been in use. It's an addendum. We've redone the contracting process and forms for Warren County. As I've said before, we do approximately 1,000 contracts a year. We have attempted to standardize the majority of contracts and contract terms. That exhibit F is a specific addendum to a contract that may involve some form of computer data, computer use contracting, and would be attached to a contract if it falls in that area of computer usage. Now I pause for a breath because one of the most, as I'm looking at the supervisor from Chester, who's been eagerly awaiting this policy, because this policy has been holding up his town from joining in the IT shared services platform that has been previously approved. One of the crucial parts and portions of this policy is we've laid out, big picture, the county has laid out through risk and safety, best practices in a number of areas. This is kind of a small microcosm of how I hope, and we hope, these policies can be used by our municipalities. If a municipality wants to become part of our county IT shared services program, they will need to adopt, I don't want to say this policy, but this policy with some very minor changes to it. So that as a partner with the county in IT shared services, we will know that they're at the same level of in their system as the county system is. Number one. And number two, we've been working with our insurance broker Gallagher in an effort to put together a new insurance program, a group insurance policy that would be available to the IT shared services municipalities to get coverage for their cyber activities at the best rate possible on a group basis. So as more municipalities will hopefully join in that shared services through IT, they'll also be able to benefit because through this policy, they'll meet minimum requirements and standards. They'll have this as a platform to show the carrier. And there'll be this group policy that'll be consistent, not just for the county, but for the municipalities as well. So many policies just affect Warren County and county governance. But truly, this is a policy that we hope will help start to transform not just at the county level, but at the municipal level, to get to the highest standard we can in what we know is a very dangerous world for our employees and our government operations. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there an exhibit D or E? I go from C to F.
No, there's a, B, and C. The reason it goes to exhibit F. Exhibit F is actually the reference for the contract. It's so you're not missing
That's fine.
exhibits. Yeah, under our contract, there's standard exhibits A through, I think we're up to F now. I think F is the last one. But we are attaching this and including it because it is in effect part of the computer use policy because it has to do with the contracting portion of computer services.
I had a second question. I should know the answer, but how do employees get notified that there is a new policy? It's been adopted by the full board. Here it is. You need to review it and be responsible for what it.
Thank you, because I skipped over that part. One key aspect of this policy is there is a section on training as well. So all employees who work basically through a computer will be additional to their computer. we'll have to acknowledge receipt of the policy. Our employees who don't use a computer aren't gonna get notice of it, because they don't need to. In order for a new employee to be logged into and get access to our system, they will receive the policy and acknowledge the policy. But the second part of that is, we've also been participating through our insurance carrier and our cyber liability carrier, looking at options to enhance countywide training resources and programs. To ensure our employees have a more regular ability to be reminded of best practices. And to be able to get a sense of knowledge, compliance, and where deficiencies may lay in our workforce when it comes to some of the areas that they will be tested on in the future. This is not like a disciplinary testing. This is to identify any areas in the county where we have internal weaknesses, so that our IT department and our department heads can work with either sections or employees to enhance their ability to detect threats, react to threats, and succeed at their job. So it's a little broader than your question, but yeah. The training aspects of this they have to ramp up on it. It has to be more consistent, more regular, and better accountability to correct deficiencies on a going forward kind of basis.
I think, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I particularly interested in section 3. I think that reads well. As you know, we years back spent some time on that section to make sure that a number of things were accomplished. One, that any access is being well documented. Who's doing the access and for what reasons and why, and that there's checks and balances on that access. And as I read through the section, I think it reads, I don't know how much of it's been changed, but I think it reads very well in terms of making sure that those checks and balances and those limited access that you can access, but you have to go through authorized parties to gain that access. And so I think that section is still a very strong section, and I think it's a good section. And really what it does is it just protects everybody involved, really.
It provides some checks and balances. It has been changed and updated. The supervisor's referring to the change in the existing policy that occurred a few years ago after I came on board to address issues that had been ongoing for some period of time. I believe that this is really checks and balances. We're talking about pages 6 to page 7 right now. And what's been added in that section that did not exist before is that number 2, which is keeping a log of requests, so that there will be there's a record keeping system, which we're hopeful is not going to be too burdensome to the director of IT and his people, but it will require some additional work to ensure that when a request is made and information is provided, that there's accountability for that if there needs to be going forward. You know, I kind of, and I apologize, Mike is sitting here. I asked him to come to this meeting. It's not normally the meeting that he reports to. And then I completely stepped over one of the important pieces I promised I was going to address, which is this policy is going to be a foundation that's going to require more, not less, from our IT services. And I hear every supervisor's concerns with costs. The college's concerns, right? Affordability. I hear it, I get it. But there is going to come a time sooner rather than later where I'm going to encourage, push, cajole, nudge our director of IT to come forward with some real clear proposals to expand his workforce. For example, we have to do, I don't want to get too into the details for security purposes, but there's certain things that need to be stepped up for programming, not just on the training side, but our employees need to be able to report when they have concerns of phishing with emails. There has to be a workforce there that can quickly respond to that. That can't be done with the current level of staffing, is my understanding at IT. And there's just gently suggesting that there's going to be a need to commit resources, not just rewrite a policy, in order to put the county on safer and firmer footing going forward into 2026 in the future. So that was my public service announcement of the IT department.
Ben, you had a question.
Yeah, well, just a comment. I would recognize Larry's comments as being preventive expenditures. You know, the cost of addressing the issue before it becomes a major problem, and then that cost is 10 times or whatever times the amount of, you know, to go back and fix it. I mean, we do that with our homes, with our cars, you know, with everything in our daily lives. So I would, you know, I would think that that was a good, it will be a good request when we get it. I also have a question, but after we vote on this, which is, I think, IT related, but I'm not sure that it's exactly what we're discussing this morning. Thanks.
I think what's pretty informative is the testing, when they send out the fake phishing and
Yeah,
the fake
right.
emails, and then you get the report with the spreadsheet that tells you how many people clicked on the link or opened it. That is that would at least identify weaknesses. So Mike would be able to address those and his staff.
And then there's that next step after that of corrective training and helping employees
Right.
increase their ability to understand those risks.
Then, oh, sorry.
No, that's-
My question to Mike is, does that go out to everyone? When I see like how many hundreds clicked or how many, those little tests that get sent out.
The summary report,
Yeah, when you do a fake phishing thing or a fake email. And then you send us the spreadsheet that shows how many people clicked on the link.
yeah, it's an automated report. I think it just goes to the board. And, you know, and part of that report, I got to take with a grain of salt because we're so aggressive on protections. It was nailing people who didn't do anything wrong. Because here's a
Okay.
phishing test and we had other unrelated systems saw the test and goes to check that. And now it looks like somebody did it, but we've worked with the vendor to get that cleared up so we can do that more aggressive training because we tried the aggressive training, but it was too aggressive because people were getting nailed for something they didn't do wrong. And so we work with them to get that straightened out
Yeah.
so we can focus more on those.
So, Madam Chair, what this policy does on a move forward basis is, and we talked about it at the Risk and Safety Committee in the month of January, on a move forward basis, there will be a standing item pertaining to IT security and services. We also, as Larry indicated, we have been fortunate to partner with our insurance carrier who is offering low cost or free regular IT. Mike and the Risk and Safety Committee, Mike is a member of the committee. We're going to be scheduling that on a robust manner
Oh,
on a monthly, so it's not a once a year anymore.
okay.
So the great part about this program, especially for IT shared IT services partners, is if you partner as part of this program and adopt the policy, then you start to get all of those services. And it is a state of the art, one of a kind, a North Country. We're about to do something that no other county is doing. So we are going to be best practice and This is the beginning of something superbly great, and we're very fortunate for all of your support. But we are going to be able to change the face of how all of this insurance programming that people can get for free, that they don't realize it. We're about to like push it out
Okay.
to save taxpayer dollars, monies, which is what you all are watching for. So it's gonna be pretty fantastic if we can get this going.
It's very comprehensive. I read through the whole thing. It's very- Okay, does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay.
Need a motion to approve.
You mean to introduce it or to?
No, just
To approve it, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Oh.
Nobody opened
Yeah,
it up.
nobody.
I'll
Okay,
open it up.
Sorry.
Okay, that's what I thought. So Supervisor Driscoll and Supervisor Mayday. Well, all in favor of opening it up, say aye.
Aye.
And all in favor of approving it, say aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, our next item is local request to introduce proposed local law number 4 of 2026. Entitled the local law amending and updating local law number 2 of 2022. Local law amending and updating local law number 6 of 2021. Local law amending and updating local law number 5 of 2021. And a local law amending and updating local law number 6 of 2014 from Warren County Ethics and Disclosure Law. Motion to bring this to the floor, or is this just a discussion?
It is, it is for resolution if the committee's prepared to move forward.
Okay, so then we'll open it up as a motion then. Anybody wanna bring this to the floor? Supervisor E2, and Supervisor Milday. Larry, do you wanna?
Sure, I will. If the computer use policy was the appetizer, this would definitely be like a main course and a half. So the background and the history on this is during the last term of the Board of Ethics, the 2024-2025 term, the board members during the course of their very busy schedule, because they had quite a bit of work to do during that 2-year term, identified inconsistencies or concerns with the existing code of ethics in comparison to Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, which coerced me into agreeing to do a deeper dive and comparison between Article 18 and the code, which, as you can see, has been amended many times since 2014. With the hope and the expectation of getting the local code of ethics to conform with Article 18 of the General Municipal Law, because in many ways, and in some ways, there were differences between the two. So what I've provided to you is a red line version of potential changes, which I will say probably 80 to 85% are bringing our code more in line with state law. We can have, so let me just hit that kind of concept in theory. Our code of ethics can have standards that exceed or are more restrictive than state law, but it cannot have less restrictive requirements. So let me know how you think best to approach this. I can give you the quicker, not quick, but quicker executive summary. Or we can go kind of through it more on a page by page. A lot of the red lines, like when you look at definitions, It's making it conform to what is provided for in state law. So somewhere along the line, some of the definitions changed. One core piece of this is the definition of relative. Because Article 18 beautifully provides two confusing definitions for the same word that are different. For purposes of financial disclosure, and you'll see this on page 3 of 23. A relative is defined for purposes of what you're disclosing when you do your financial disclosure as any person from your grandparents down. That's a pretty good sized triangle. Our code has been defining it under the more restrictive term that did not and was not supposed to apply for purposes of financial disclosure, but of when you have an interest in a contract that prohibits you from doing something, which was more limited. So you'll see under the term relative, the more expansive version. Which would be from an employee's grandparents down. So if your grandparents, your parents, your aunts and uncles, your brothers or sisters, your wife, to include your wife's triangle from her grandparents down, have contracts or contacts with Warren County, that's reportable per state law. We have not been doing that. So that's big picture, one of the more substantial changes that are in this document. There's also clarification on how to report and disclose an interest in litigation or a matter that requires discretion. We've always had the outside interest form, but nobody uses it because it wasn't clear under the existing code when that outside interest form should be filled out and submitted. So we try to clarify in here, because there have been real world examples where there were outside interests that were not documented, that then became issues that the Board of Ethics had to deal with. And section E is a new section that addresses, and that's on page 4, specifically the outside interest form. Section 9, annual financial disclosure statements, clarifies clearly for everyone in the county that Article 18 applies to all employees. And we changed the timetable and timeline for the review of financial disclosures to make it more manageable for a future Board of Ethics to accomplish that task. Section 10 was called recusals and abstentions. We've clarified over the last 2 years now that there are really no such thing as an abstention by an officer who's either voting or using discretion on a matter. There is a recusal from it. And it clarifies that when an officer is recusing themselves from some matter, that matter should be written either in the financial disclosure statement or in the outside interest form. And Warren County has not been in compliance in the past because the reports of that outside interest and why that form is so important by state law are required, depending on who you are, but we'll just talk about the Board of Supervisors and supervisors for now, and other elected officers. They are supposed to flow to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors and be published at the next regularly scheduled meeting. So there's a public, the public has the ability to see that there was a declaration as to the outside interest. And that should all occur before a recusal is occurring on a matter that's before the board. Or at a minimum, immediately after the recusal comes to light. So if your employer, if you are employed as a supervisor by an entity that conducts business with Warren County, that's going to be on your financial disclosure statement. It should also be on an outside interest form that then would flow to the clerk of the board and be posted at the next monthly meeting. So there's a public record. Why I'm grateful we're doing these now is I have heard for the last 2 years that when a comptroller, if the comptroller does an audit of a municipality, that's one of the things they always look for in every audit. So we want to make sure our code is complying with the requirements of state law to make sure there's proper notice to the public of potential conflicts among individuals who are either elected or appointed, or not even appointed, but acting in means where they use discretion that could affect legislation or contracts with Warren County. Any questions so far? Because I'm gonna keep moving through, not every single change, but the ones that I think are most significant. Which would be, the next one would be section 16 on page 8. It clarifies what was not necessarily clear in the existing code on the use of Warren County resources under 16A. That Warren County resources includes the county's computer data network, include but not limited to the use of county hardware to access the county computer data network as governed by the county's computer use policy, which is incorporated by reference herein. So the policy that you just finished reviewing is incorporated into the section of our proposed code regarding the use of Warren County resources and what would be deemed a misuse of those resources, just as if an employee were using some physical resource like a truck or a plow or a backhoe to do something that was not official in their day-to-day work requirements. What was section C was deleted because it was my recommendation that it's covered by another policy, which is that you can't spend more than is reasonably necessary for transportation, meals, or lodging in connection with official travel. But we have an entire policy that addresses that, and violations of that policy are already subject to discipline. So my recommendation is to keep this clearly focused on resources and not discretionary acts like transportation, meals, and lodging. The section that was, for some reason, in that section on resources was the computer ethics training requirement. That was, it's deleted from here, and then it's added later on in the policy, I believe at the very end. on page 12, which provides a more clearer set of steps and requirements for ethics training. And that covers new employees who are coming in, as well as annual training, and helps to clarify what is in every single year issue of, do our employees that don't have computer access need to get computer access just to comply with how the code was written previously, which required all employees to do this training by way of individual computer course. Going back to page 8 of 23, section 15 wasn't deleted, it was just moved because it didn't belong back here, buried in the code. Truly, as your legal advisor, my gravest concern, and history in the past 2 years will prove the greatest ethics concern I have for our officers and employees is somebody having an interest in a contract that the board is approving and them not disclosing it. So that section is moved up toward the appropriate section, closer to the appropriate related sections of section 6, disclosure of an interest in legislation. Some slight changes were made in what's now section 20 on page 10 for gifts, so that it would comply with state law. And to clarify what the law requires, which is it's not just about the officer or employee receiving a gift, but also their spouse or a member of their household. So that change appears throughout that section 20, so there's no ambiguity. We've had situations where we've provided a legal opinion that included spouses to county officers on this topic of gifts. So for example, if the officer and their spouse is invited to an event, it's not how much is the gift to the employee, and we don't count the gift to the spouse. It's not how much is the gift to the employee, and then separately, how much is the gift to the spouse? You aggregate, you add them together, and it should not and cannot exceed $75 in the calendar, in the 12-month period of the gift, not the calendar year, but within 12-month period of the gift. The other substantial change on page 11, section 21 now, under the Board of Ethics. It was rewritten so that it would be clearer as to each important item for the board. So now, after A establishes the Board of Ethics, you have sections on what the composition is, the qualifications, the appointment, term, compensation, and then their duties as a board after that. And the main change in there is changing the composition of the board to remove the public officer, the municipal officer employee requirement that had been in our code in the past. We've discussed why that would be important to do, because we've had difficulty filling that position. And then when that position is not on the board, the way the code has been written made it impossible for the board to proceed even if they had a quorum. State law does prohibit the Board of Ethics from having a majority of members who are municipal officers or employees. The overall intent of state law is for non-municipal employees to be on the board, reviewing the matters that come before it. I suspect there may be some changes. I did not coordinate with, the Assistant County Administrator on Exhibit A, but there may be some modifications to that Appendix A list that we want to make, as it has not been reviewed or updated probably since 2021. And then the worst part of this task was trying to make a financial disclosure statement that was not as draconian and opaque as the recommended form in New York state law, which I have a difficult time reading and fully comprehending and understanding, but yet clarifying and truly helping us focus as a county on what we need for disclosure purposes and where our risks lie in officers who have to file this document, disclosing enough information so that they are protected and covered from a claim that they did something unethical because they failed to report a relationship that they have that impacts their ability to perform their duties under state. So what you'll notice is on the first page, there's been an addition of primary residence to the document. There's been a reworking of the number 2 and number 3, so that there would be the disclosure of marital status and the name of the spouse. And then the disclosure of children regardless of age and stepchildren, which would be limited to those that live and reside in the primary residence of the employee. Primarily in the primary residence of the. And then 4, which is new and has become an issue and concern since I've been here, is a disclosure of other individuals who reside with the employee in that primary residence.
Yeah.
For purposes of disclosure of potential conflicts of interest. We live in a much more fluid world today than decades ago. And disclosing whether you're married or unmarried doesn't necessarily disclose all of the potential conflicts that may exist that arise from someone's living situation. But this would provide the ability and disclosure by the officer or the employee if they have a parent, a sibling, a significant other, or a roommate, which are all examples of potential conflicts that the county may wish to know about. And then providing disclosure on that larger definition of relatives that work in Warren County. Again, disclosing, for example, that your uncle and your aunt and your brother work at Warren County doesn't create an issue. It provides disclosure so there is no issue in the future regarding that relationship. And if the relationship falls into an area where there's an issue or concern of supervision, then there's an ability to address it before it becomes a liability, an issue or concern that is a public issue and concern. Those were really the large modifications. I also recommend deleting the future employment provision. I've yet to see anyone disclose on their financial disclosure statement that they have an offer of employment from somebody in the future while they're still employed here. They have a separate obligation to disclose that under the Code of Ethics. But including that in the annual reporting that's done each January doesn't really seem to add anything to the discussion? And then finally, at the end, which would be page 22 of 23, there was a proposed certification. It should be similar to a certification on the state form. It's actually, this certification is far less onerous than the one that was on the proposed state disclosure form. That just puts everyone on notice that any knowing or willfully false statement that's provided in the document would be potentially punishable as a Class A misdemeanor. Which is largely true regardless of whether they sign that certification or not, but serves to clarify that the document that they are submitting is an important document and not one that should be taken lightly or with frivolity, as may have occurred in the past. That's my quicker version of a summary. Not a quick version, but a quicker version of it. If
Does it say anywhere in here about if changes occur throughout the year that you would need to contact your office and update this?
that's really what the outside interest form, so anything that would occur during the year that would trigger a concern, that outside interest form would then be the vehicle to use.
Okay.
So I believe it does cover that. I honestly, as I'm sitting here right now, I'd have to go back and review to make sure. And I will do that.
Sure. I just wanted to comment, I think that, Mr. Elman, Mr. Taflin and Ms. Allen can confirm that, if I ever have any doubts or need kind of clarification on my interpretation of all of this, stuff, I ask. I mean, it's a simple ask. It takes a lot. It's a lot quicker than Mr. Elman's presentation on all of this type of stuff. You know, so just make that ask if, and it comes up regularly for me. The other point I'll make is, on the presumption of gifts. If you have a personal relationship with an individual, you regularly go out to dinner, you go to ball games, concerts, school activities, those types of things. You don't need, I don't bring my calculator with me to see if I'm under that $75 threshold. There's employees here that I've had relationships with long before I ever got elected, and we exchange birthday presents and
There's
Christmas
exceptions.
presents. Yeah, that type of stuff. That's very important. You know, it's not, you know, you can buy a coffee and you don't have to put that down on your little notepad that you've done that. So I think that that's important, but certainly if you have questions, just ask the professionals.
So what you're looking for then is a resolution for us to pass that allows this to move forward as a local law
Yes, it would be for publication,
for
for a
publication.
public hearing.
Mhm.
And let me just throw one more in there as a catch on page 11 of 23, under gifts. We're also recommending adding a waiver of a prize. It happens multiple times a year where somebody goes to a conference and they get through a lottery or like a drawing, something that has more than $75 of value to it, and we end up having to do some kind of an opinion for it. So just to keep it kind of not crazy, the recommendation was if it's equal or less than $250, and it was from a job-related professional educational conference or program where all attendees had the ability to enter into the drawing, they don't have to lose sleep over the fact that they took it home with them. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that, because that's a new Trying to lighten a little bit of the office. That's all that is.
I'd be happy to move it.
Okay, we can.
Oh, we did it already.
We did
Okay,
do that
great.
already.
Okay.
So then, if there's no further discussion, then I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? No. And now I believe. Did you want to go into executive session here?
I leave it to the committee. There's a lot of litigation right now that's occurring. I will say publicly on the discussion items, not the final, I don't think this is the final report, but the report through December 31st, 2025 for the insurance reserve payments is attached.
Okay,
If there's any updates to that, I'll make sure it's at the next committee meeting to just close out 2025. I don't think I'll ask to go into the executive session. I think we'll save that for next month. Hopefully, I won't spend as much time on policies next month, but I do think it's important that everybody on the committee is aware of the current risks of the litigation that's outstanding. I will note that under 2F, the Corey Russell v. Bailey lawsuit, which was a federal lawsuit, has now been dismissed as of January 26, 2026. So I'm not going to tell you about it because it's no longer an issue. And under 2H, Christy Truesdale versus Greg Pinali and others was another pro se lawsuit that went to the Second Circuit after it was dismissed at the trial court stage. And that was dismissed by the Second Circuit on January 22nd, 2026. And I want to thank the insurance law firm that represented us on both of those for getting those dealt with, dismissed as quickly as possible. So we don't need to know about those because they don't exist. That's all I have. Thank you very much for the time and your patience.
okay, so. Then we can open this up to our final privilege of the floor. If anybody would like to speak?
Madam Chair, I was just gonna say at the bottom of 6B, the insurance reserve, it says privileged and confidential, but I did find it on the county website.
Yeah, this version is not.
Okay.
This version, that should have been removed. There's a more expansive version that has attorney-client communications and what product included, but that version does not. We just didn't remove the footer.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, I opened up my Facebook this morning and I saw that the Warren County had posted the obituary for Supervisor Mark Smith. So certainly we send our sympathies to his family, and Mark was a real neat guy to work with in the past, and again, that information was posted on on my Facebook this morning. Thanks.
Then we'll have a motion to adjourn. E2, Supervisor Conover. All in favor?
Aye.